Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're digging into someone really pivotal, but maybe often overlooked in ancient Egyptian history, Nectanebo first.
Absolutely. He's the founder of the 30th dynasty.
Which, and this is incredible, was the very last native dynasty to rule Egypt before, centuries of foreign domination set in.
A crucial figure, definitely.
So our deep dive today, it's drawing from a couple of key sources. We've got a detailed Wikipedia article and also this really engaging video transcript called Nectanebo I, Egypt's Last Great Pharaoh of Freedom.
Good stuff to work with.
Yeah. And our mission, like always, is to pull out the most important bits, the surprising facts about Nectanebo I, basically giving you a shortcut to getting up to speed on this pharaoh. He really was the last great defender of ancient Egypt's freedom.
And he's so compelling. Nectanebo's reign, it's not just, another paragraph in the textbook. It's this standout moment where native rule actually reemerges after Egypt spent so long under foreign control.
Right.
I mean, for ages, Egypt's power had been waning, kind of swallowed up by bigger empires. So his rise, the whole era he started, it represents this final, really powerful statement of Egyptian identity before the curtain finally came down on rule by pharaohs. It's a genuine story of resilience, against some pretty overwhelming odds.
Okay, let's get into it then. We have to start with the background. Egypt under what they call the Achaemenid shadow.
The Persian Empire.
Exactly. For over a century, ancient Egypt had fallen to the Achaemenid or Persian Empire. And it wasn't just conquered, it became a satrapy, like basically just a province.
Yeah, a cog in their massive machine.
So what did that actually mean for people living there, for the average Egyptian or even the elites, that long period of Persian rule?
Well, it meant huge changes. Egyptian pharaohs, gone, replaced by Persian kings. Temples were often neglected. Ancient traditions were kind of pushed aside, stifled, really. And the national pride, deeply wounded.
Oof.
Imagine your whole culture being suppressed for over 100 years. Now, there were revolts, intermittent ones, but none had really managed to completely throw off Persian rule. But that spirit, that Egyptian nationalism, it was definitely simmering just below the surface, waiting.
Waiting for someone like Nectanebo. And he wasn't born into the traditional royal line, was he? He had a military background.
That's right. He came from Sebennytos. His original Egyptian name was Nectanebo, meaning the strong one of his lord, an army general. His father, Jetur, was also an important military officer.
So how does a general from Sebennytos end up taking the throne? How did he actually manage to seize power from the established 29th dynasty?
Well, that's where it gets dramatic. He grabbed the throne around 379, maybe 378 BCE, and he did it by overthrowing Nephrites II, the last pharaoh of that 29th dynasty.
Overthrowing.
And possibly executing him. There's a stele found at Hermopolis that gives us evidence for this pretty major power shift.
Wow.
And there's even this fascinating hint that he might have had help in the coup from an Athenian general, Chabrias.
Chabrias. Okay, so international intrigue too.
Exactly. It shows you just how tangled the politics were back then.
So a military coup gets him power. But, taking power is one thing, holding on to it, legitimizing it, that's another. What made his approach so smart when he established the 30th dynasty? Like, those coronations in Sais and Memphis, moving the capital, was that just symbolic?
Oh, much more than symbolic. It was a really profound act of, national reassertion. Having coronations in both Sais, the super important religious center, and Memphis, the ancient capital, that signaled a return to proper Egyptian kingship traditions.
Right, hitting the key spots.
Exactly. And moving the capital from Mendes to his hometown, Sebennytos, that wasn't just changing the address. It let him build his own power base, free from the old dynasty's influence. And this whole process, it really cemented the start of the 30th dynasty, which is so critical because, again, it was the last native Egyptian dynasty to rule.
Such a powerful statement for the time. Did he try to link himself to older pharaohs, or was he presenting himself as a totally fresh start?
It's interesting how he dealt with the previous dynasty, the 29th. He clearly didn't think much of Nephrites II, called him inept, or Achoris, who he labeled a usurper.
Okay, so clearing the decks.
Pretty much. But he did seem to hold Nephrites in, let's say, higher regard. Now, people used to think Nephrites, I was his direct ancestor, but scholars now think that's probably a misread of the Demotic Chronicle.
Ah, those ancient texts always keeping us guessing.
Right, so maybe not a direct line, but possibly related somehow. He was definitely trying to connect himself to a legitimate past, even while forging this new dynasty. Ancient historical detective work can be tricky.
It sounds like it. And family-wise, he had a succession plan, at least on paper, 2 sons we know of.
Yep, Teos, who he picked as his successor, and another son, Chahapamu.
Okay, so Nectanebo's rule is established, but then comes the big test, right? This huge clash with Persia, which leads us into this monumental invasion and shows off his tactical side.
Exactly, 374 or 373 BCE. The Persian king Artaxerxes II decides it's time to take back Egypt. He still just saw it as a rebel satrapy.
Just a province stepping out of line.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they didn't just wander in. How prepared were they?
They'd spent 6 years getting ready for this. 6. They even put pressure on Athens to recall General Chabrias, the guy who might have helped Nectanebo in the first place.
Wow, pulling out all the stops. What did the invasion force look like?
It was enormous. Reports say over 200,000 troops. That's Persian soldiers and Greek mercenaries, plus around 500 ships.
Whoa, that's intimidating.
Totally. And it was led by the Athenian general Iphicrates alongside the Persian Pharnabazus, a massive force designed to just crush the Egyptians.
Yet, Nectanebo somehow managed it. A masterful defense, apparently. He didn't just meet them head-on, did he? What were the tactics? How did he handle this overwhelming force along the Nile?
His strategy was, well, brilliant. Instead of just defending the most obvious route, he ordered fortifications built up along the Pelusiac branch of the Nile.
Okay, the main eastern arm. The direct way in.
Exactly, he beefed that up, which cleverly forced the Persian fleet to try and navigate the less defended Mendesian branch instead.
Ah, but the Mendesian branch? That's narrower, trickier to navigate, right?
Precisely. Especially for such a huge fleet, he drew them into a much more complex, much more dangerous approach.
That is incredible foresight. So what was the key factor, do you think, that turned this whole thing around? It looked like certain defeat, but became a victory. Was it just the tactics, or were there other things at play?
It seems like it was a mix of things. What's really fascinating is this idea that the two commanders, Iphicrates the Athenian and Pharnabazus the Persian,
The gold command.
yeah, they apparently grew deeply suspicious of each other. This distrust meant they couldn't coordinate effectively, couldn't push through to Memphis, the capital.
Infighting on the command level. Classic.
Right. Combine that with the annual Nile flood, which would have turned the delta into a swampy mess, slowing them down, scattering their forces.
The terrain fighting back.
And finally, you just have the determination of the Egyptian defenders fighting for their homes. So all these things combined, the distrust, the flood, the Egyptian resolve turned what looked like certain defeat into a complete victory.
Wow. Just imagine being an Egyptian soldier there, seeing that massive fleet struggling in a wrong waterway, maybe getting bogged down by the flood.
Must have been quite a sight. Chaos for the Persians, but maybe chillingly exhilarating for the defenders.
A stunning turnaround. And Nectanebo didn't just sit back after winning, did he? He used this momentum.
Absolutely. He immediately started playing the international game again, started giving financial support to other parts of the Persian Empire that were rebelling from about 368 BCE onwards. And he reestablished links with Sparta and Athens.
Smart. Keeping the pressure on Persia, building alliances. He definitely knew how to play the long game.
And this military success, it really set the stage for a period of, well, flourishing inside Egypt. Which brings us to another major part of his reign, Nectanebo the Builder.
Ah, yes, the great builder and restorer, to an extent, sources say, not seen in Egypt for centuries. He kicked off work on temples all across the country.
It wasn't just about putting up buildings, though, was it? There seems to be more going on, religion, economics, national pride, all mixed together. Like, he was building Egypt's story back up in stone.
Definitely. His projects weren't just construction, they were powerful statements. He started the Temple of Isis at Philae, specifically its vestibule, which became, hugely important later on.
Philae, right. Iconic.
And he initiated the first pylon at Karnak in the precinct of Amun-Re. I mean, that's a colossal undertaking.
That's huge.
Plus, it's thought he built the earliest known Mamisi, that's a birthhouse temple, celebrating a divine birth, the one found at Dendera. He was also big on supporting the cults of sacred animals. We see evidence at Hermopolis, Saft el-Hina, Mendes.
Okay, so major projects supporting traditions.
And more besides. Work found at Memphis, Tanis, El-Kab, the list goes on.
And he wasn't just building, he was funding, too. His support for the priesthood sounds really significant. There's that decree from his very first year as pharaoh.
Ah, the Naucratis deal.
That's the one. Found at Naucratis. And they recently found a twin of it in the submerged city of Heraklion, which is amazing in itself.
Incredible find.
And it required 10% of taxes from imports and local production in that area to go straight to the temple of Neith at Sais. That's a serious commitment.
A very serious commitment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just there. That stele found at Hermopolis, the one place before a pylon built by Ramesses II. It lists donations he made to the local gods there too. The priests of Horus at Edfu also got benefits.
So what was the strategy behind all this generosity? Was it just piety?
Well, it was definitely presented as devotion to the gods, which was crucial for any pharaoh's legitimacy.
Mm.
There was also smart politics and economics.
Mm-hmm.
It secured divine favor, sure. But it also channeled money to the priesthood, who were basically the country's biggest wealth holders at the time.
Keeping the powerful elites happy.
And by linking temple income to trade and production, like with that Naucratis decree, it probably helped fund the country's defense too. So these projects, they were shouting Egyptian identity,
All right.
reaffirming the old gods, the spirit of Egypt, often even looking back stylistically to the art of the Old Kingdom.
So faith, finance, defense, and national identity all rolled into one building program. That's quite sophisticated. But you have to wonder, all these massive projects, did they put a huge strain on the economy? Do we know if anyone was unhappy about where the resources were going?
That's a really good point. Ancient economies were always a balancing act. While our sources mostly focus on the good stuff, the prosperity, the revival, it's possible there was strain. However, that Naucratis decree, tying temple funding directly to trade taxes and local output,
Yeah.
that suggests he had a structured plan. He wasn't just spending wildly.
Oh.
And his reign is generally remembered as a time when things got better, which suggests that, for many people at least, the benefits seem to outweigh the costs.
Makes sense. And yet, despite this amazing comeback, this revival, the end of native Egyptian rule was sadly just around the corner, wasn't it?
Tragically, yes. Which brings us to the twilight of Nectanebo's reign and ultimately the end of his dynasty.
He died during his 19th year as ruler. And strangely, or perhaps sadly, his tomb, his sarcophagus, even his mummy, they've never been found.
Never found.
Yeah.
A mystery. Now, before he died, Nectanebo tried something interesting to deal with the kind of dynastic instability that had plagued his predecessors.
What was that?
In his 16th year, around 364 BCE, he tried to bring back the co-regency. It was an old practice, hadn't been used for a long time. He associated his son Teos with the throne, making him co-ruler.
Trying to ensure a smooth handover, avoid the usual power struggle.
Exactly. That was the idea. Smooth succession.
The best laid plans, right? Didn't quite work out.
Not at all. Soon after Teos took over fully, his own brother, Nectanebo's other son, Nectanebo, betrayed him.
His brother, wow.
Yep. Nectanebo managed to get his son, Nectanebo, who we know as Nectanebo II, put on the throne instead.
So the co-regency plan failed spectacularly because of family betrayal. Do you think that attempt at co-regency shows Nectanebo was forward-thinking, or maybe just that even he couldn't fix the deep-seated dynastic problems?
That's a really poignant question. I mean, on one level, it was innovative for the time, looking back to an old solution, but the fact that his own family turned against the plan so quickly, it just shows how powerful those ambitions and rivalries were.
Yeah.
Especially when Egypt was still fundamentally vulnerable. It highlights that even a brilliant pharaoh couldn't always control the tangled web of family politics.
And this internal fighting, it must have weakened Egypt right when they needed to be strong.
Absolutely. And the final blow wasn't far off. The Persians came back.
In this time.
This time they succeeded. In 343 BCE, they reconquered Egypt. That was it for the 30th dynasty. And really, for all native pharaonic rule.
The end of an era. Egypt would flourish again later under the Ptolemies, the Greek dynasty.
Right, Cleopatra's family. But they weren't native Egyptians. The age of the native pharaohs truly ended there.
What a bittersweet story for Nectanebo Wafer. He achieved so much, but the end was just delayed. He really stands out as this tragic yet heroic figure, the last great Egyptian king fighting for his nation's freedom.
Yeah, his reign feels like this final, brilliant defiance. A last gasp of native power. His legacy is definitely twofold. The sharp military mind who beat the odds, and the devout builder who breathed life back into Egypt's sacred traditions.
He is incredibly poignant, isn't he? Representing that last powerful surge of purely Egyptian identity and sovereignty before it was finally extinguished.
A magnificent final stand, you could say. It wasn't permanent, but it was an incredible fight while it lasted.
So we've seen his dual brilliance, warrior king humbling a superpower, builder king sparking this renaissance. He was a real force. He bought Egypt nearly 2 more decades of genuine native freedom.
He bought them time, yeah.
Yeah.
Precious time. And reminded them maybe of what it felt like to be independent, to be Egyptian and proud before the final curtain fell.
So thinking about Nectanebo's story, What does it tell you, our listener, about how powerful national identity can be? That resilience, even when facing massive empires. Even if, in the end, the freedom doesn't last forever. What lessons can we maybe draw from this chapter about, fighting for what you believe in, even when the odds look completely stacked against you?